everyone, my name's Scott. I'm a member of the team at Pilgrim Community Church, and it's my pleasure to be speaking to you this morning. So there were two sons, and their father was getting old, and the father was a rich guy, and he was one of these guys. He was a homemaker and a builder, but he was also a creative type. So he had both creative and practical intelligence, and he'd built a huge fortune, and they had an inheritance to pass on to his sons. And the sons were different. The younger one was a wee bit more creative and a wee bit more adventurous and a bit more flighty, would you say? The older one was a bit more stable and spent his life with his father, looking after his dad and looking after the family home and the family business. In his late teens, the younger son got a bit restless. He was looking at the limited opportunities that were available to him in the home and in his little community it was part of, and he wanted to get away. You know, that type of restlessness that often accompanies, late teenage, early 20 years. So he said to his father, and you could do that in those days, could you give me my inheritance now, rather than wait until you die? Could you give me the money now so that I can make good use of it and do good things with it? Now that was a bit of a dishonour to his father, because really he was saying, Dad, it'd be good if you weren't here so I could get the money. Can I get it now, please? And it was a bit of a dishonour to do that in that culture, to ask for the inheritance now. But anyway, the father loved his boys. He absolutely adored his sons, and he said, yes, son, you can get the inheritance now. So he transferred the money to his son, and the son left home, and he was away for years. And he went to the cities and he tried to establish himself, and he made a lot of friends, as rich people often do. But then he got involved in some stuff that he perhaps shouldn't, and the way some of us do. He indulged his appetites. He had a bit of a riot. He indulged his, sexual appetite, his appetite for drink, his appetite for food, his appetites for things that were not good for him, things that were destructive, and ultimately spent all his money on these things. And he came to a point, the boy, when he had nothing left, and he looked around him and his friends had gone too, and he was left standing wondering where everybody was. And he tried everything. He tried to get his friends back, but they wouldn't come because he had nothing to offer them. He tried to get work, but he couldn't find it. He went to farms and tried to get work, working with pigs, and eventually he did, and he said it'd be better for me if I could. He said the pigs were better off than himself because at least they were getting fed. And he said to himself at the very end, when he had hit rock bottom, he said he thought about his dad, and he thought about going home, and he said it'd be better for me to be a servant in my dad's house than to be here. So when he was at rock bottom, he thought of his father, and he turned and he travelled back. And the funny thing was, when he came in sight of the house, the first thing he saw was his father. And his father came running and embraced him and brought him in, and he said, son, I thought you were dead, but now you're alive and you've come back to me. We're going to have a party, we're going to have a feast, we're going to celebrate your return. And the boy said, Dad, I'm really sorry, just make me a servant. I don't deserve any of this, just make me a servant, look after me. But the father restored him to his rightful place. He brought out his best clothes, he brought out the family ring, he put it on his finger. He restored him as a son and as an heir. He forgave him for spending all the money and for ruining that part of his life. His big brother was there too, and his big brother was struggling with it. He said to his dad, Dad, I've always been with you. Why all the attention on him? What about me? And the father turned to the older brother and said, "Son, you are always with me, you're right, and all that I have is yours. All that I have is yours." Some of you might recognise this story as the prodigal son, the lost son, one of a series of stories that Jesus of Nazareth told in his time on the earth. And I want to just say a couple of things about this story. One is, and you've heard this before, but it's important you don't miss it and that you get the truth of it. This is a symbolic story. The Father is God, the Father, and we are the prodigal son. Because we all get lost, and we're all lost, and even after you've given your life to Christ, you can get lost, you can get involved in things that are not good and are destructive to you. And the Father is the one that allows you to learn from your experiences of getting lost, but always welcomes you back. So point number one, there's nothing you can do that will stop the Father loving you. I'll say that again. There's nothing you can do that will stop the Father loving you. You can always come back. You can always come back, folks. So if you're finding yourself in a place this morning where you feel as if you've done something, or you're the type of person that God could never love, you can always come back. There's nothing you can do that would stop the Father loving you. Point number two, we all get lost. We all get lost and take ourselves away from fellowship with God. There is always a way back. Isn't it? Because the son in this story, he didn't go back until he had to go back, until he had no other choice. He had no other options left but to return to the Father. And yet the Father still accepted him back with open arms, came running towards him. The scriptures tell us to draw near to God and he'll draw near to us. And it is a two-pronged approach, and what you find is that as soon as you take a step towards him, he comes running to you. Point number three, don't resent the love of God being shown to someone else, or someone else getting a bit of attention. There are all kinds of injustices and problems in the world, and people who are less fortunate than us that need a bit of special attention from time to time. The older brother in this case was jealous of the son, and he was thinking, he's been away and squandered everything, and yet he's been allowed back and he's been allowed a favoured position. Am I not more important than him? The thing is, we're not, folks. As human beings, we have equality, and that's it. And that means the right to be treated as an equal, and God treats us as equals. A wise friend of mine once said that there are no hills or mountains at the foot of the cross. We stand on a level playing field as equals before God. But the great thing is that the Father didn't judge the older brother who was jealous and resentful either. You know what he did? He said to him, and I can imagine him putting his arm around him saying, "Son, you're always with me, and all that I have is yours. You're always with me, and all that I have is yours." So may the God of grace and peace and unending love, may his blessing be upon you and your family this morning, in the name of his Son, Jesus of Nazareth. Grace and peace.